Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie, and today's video I'm sharing with you the products that I'm putting in my October Shop My Stash and reviewing the products in my September Shop My Stash. So if you want to see all the products that I use in September and the ones that I'm planning on using in October, just keep on watching. So I had a lot of fun shopping my stash for the first time in September. I included one primer, which was the Sephora Points Perk for the First Aid Beauty Ultra Coconut Skin Smoothie Priming Moisturizer, and I use this a fair amount, and so far I liked it. I was testing it out with a newer foundation, so I am going to have to put this to the test more, but especially for a Sephora Point Perk, I got so much use out of it, and I felt like it really did keep my skin hydrated. I had two different foundations in my Shop My Stash. My Too Faced Born This Way in the shade Snow, and the new Makeup Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Foundation in the shade F3. To be honest, I did neglect the Too Faced one because I was so into testing this one out. So I am going to have to put this in a future Shop My Stash, but I really liked this foundation. I'm going to be throwing it in as September favorites as a spoiler alert if that video isn't already up yet, but I loved this. Unlike what I originally thought in my video, this foundation comes with a pump and you can see how messy it is. I was mixing it in with my LA Girl Pro Matte Foundation, which is in my Shop Project Pan, because the one thing about this foundation, the undertone is way too pink for me. But I found for a hydrating foundation, it didn't really sink into my smile lines. It's actually the foundation I have on today. It was really long lasting, which I find with more dewy and hydrating foundations, that's not something that I experience. But I really like this, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for an affordable hydrating foundation. I threw in two new concealers to my collection. The ColourPop No Filter Concealer in the shade Fair 08 and the Milani Concealer and Perfect Concealer in the shade 105. I definitely used the ColourPop one more and I really liked it. I found that it was hydrating. It's a good medium to almost full coverage, or at least it's full coverage for me. I don't tend to wear full coverage makeup, so I feel like my verdict for full coverage is a little bit skewed, but I found it was really hydrating and I liked it. I like this one a little bit more than the Milani one because I found it was more blendable and just like emollient. But I did like the Milani one as well, but I feel like I need to test this one out a little bit more. I used the Hourglass Translucent Setting Powder, which I purchased at Sephora for my powder. I definitely liked this, but I find that it didn't do a good job locking in my makeup. So if you're someone that uses powder to keep everything in place, I find that my makeup still broke up and it didn't really set my smile line, some other creases that I have. But everything just looked so flawless with this that I felt like that's what I used it for, is like an overall, almost like a finishing powder with a touch of setting ability. I did throw in the Anastasia Beverly Hills Contour Palette, and I was using this for the first week, but I went to a wedding during September and I used my Shop My Stash bag to carry my stuff, so I ended up emptying out these contents and I forgot to put this one back in. So I might throw this back in for October or for another month. I did like the use that I got out of it. I used these powders to help set my under eyes. I contoured with this and I bronzed with these two. But after that wedding, I totally forgot to put it back on my desk so I could get continual use out of it. I loved having the Too Faced I Will Always Love You, Love Flesh blush in my Project Pan. In my Shop My Stash. I love this blush formula. It was such a pretty peachy blush that I felt like it went with my everyday wear and just made me look like really youthful and healthy. As summer was fading into fall, it was still an appropriate color. I used my Super Shock Cheek from ColourPop, which is actually the highlighter I have on today. And I have to say, I was struggling with this product before, but this gave me a newfound love having to use it every day. I definitely prefer using it with fingers over a brush. I did use it with the brush today and my nose highlight is beaming. But this one was just so pretty. It's really easy to use. You just rub it on with your finger and just place it onto the high points of your cheeks. And it is a really metallic highlight. I guess I just needed to use this more to learn to love it. And I'm glad that I threw it into my Shop My Stash because otherwise I would have completely counted this product out. The other highlighter that I had was the Mary Luminizer by The Balm. And this is in my Project Pan and you can probably tell how much I've loved it. I just have a little bit of product left on the ends, but I was neglecting this for a while because I was throwing in new highlighters into my makeup collection. So I liked being able to take out an old favorite and use it. I used the Lorac Tantalizer Baked Bronzer in the shade Matte Tan. This is probably the last month that I can use this because this is a little bit too deep and orangey for my skin tone. Because the Baked Bronzer has such a nice formula with a little bit of a sheen, but it is a little too dark. I'm gonna keep this on my desk to see if I can get away with it in October, but that might be the very last month I could push it. I hate the packaging of this thing because it's huge. So you flip open this compartment to expose the bronzer, and then you have this bottom compartment which has a brush, which I don't think I've ever used. So it is a little bulky and a hassle, but I find that it's so pretty and just a nice bronzy color. I just wish it was a shade lighter for me. I definitely made a good choice in selecting my eyeshadow palettes for the month. I know everybody hates on Subculture, but you can't tell me this color scheme isn't perfect for fall. I'm also really close to hitting pan on the shade Dawn there. Not sure if you can see that dip. And then Cube has always been one of my favorite shadows. So I'll put a matte all over my lid and pop Cube on top, and it just makes a world of a difference. New Wave and Edge are just really pretty, and I've used the shade Fudge and Dawn, or Roxy, just to make like an everyday sort of look. And this was perfect because the other eyeshadow palette I had was the Becca Volcano Goddess palette. And this one does not have that many deep mattes. In fact, the only 3 mattes are right here. And I used it to like start my crease, but I definitely had to use Subculture to help amp that up. But this has some of the creamiest metallics. I did do a get ready with me using my Shop My Stash product. So if that isn't up already, it should be coming soon. But if it is up, I will try to remember to link it down below. But I definitely use this shade, which is Haze, the most. It's just a really pretty taupey shimmer. And I find that these are so creamy. I put them on, I can put a little bit of concealer and they just grab onto the product. And I really like this palette. I do think you can't really do a complete look because of the lack of depth in mattes. That's why I liked having the Subculture to accompany it. There were 2 products that I don't think I used at all. And the first was the Flower Beauty Blush Balm in the shade Cinnamon, and the second was the Becca x Chrissy Teigen Glow Gloss in the shade Malibu Soleil. And I think this was the same case with that Anastasia Beverly Hills Contour palette, where I, had it in my bag and then I went away for a weekend and I completely neglected this. I will definitely throw this in another Shop My Stash. I'm gonna take a little break from them for now, even though I didn't really use them. But I do like both of these products, and I went to Ulta and I couldn't find any more of the blush bombs because I've been wanting to pick them up in a different color. And this gloss I like. I just have another gloss that I'm really excited to use in the October update. The other 2 lip products I had was the Morphe liquid lipstick in the shade Vanity and the Tarteist lip paint in the shade Home Slice. This is such a pretty peach color. I've worn it all the time and gotten compliments. And the Morphe liquid lipstick is nice. I feel like it's not a liquid lipstick formula to write home about, but it's not one to write off. I did really like this color. It was a really pretty, like darker mauve-ish brick. I feel like that's not a way to describe a color. That is where I fail as a YouTuber, is I can't describe colors and my life depended on it. But it's a very traditional liquid lipstick formula. It's drying. It actually kind of reminded me of the Tarte one, where it is drying. It's not the most dry I've ever tried, but it's not the most hydrating I've ever tried. But this lasted decently well with food and drink because I wore it when I went out with my friends for dinner. And I didn't have any issues where I was like, I need to touch up my lipstick. So that's always refreshing. But overall, I think I did pretty well with my first Shop My Stash update. I definitely will remember to keep my products on my desk at all times for the October update. But let's just jump in and look at the products that I'm picking this October. So in no particular order, I'm just gonna pull out the products that I'm using and let's talk about them. So the first one is the eyeshadow palette that I'm actually wearing today, and it's the California Love Palette by ColourPop. I picked this up during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale. So if you haven't seen that haul, I'll have it linked up above or down below because a lot of the products that I'm using are from that. This is what the inside of the palette looks like, and I feel like it's a really quintessential fall palette, which is why I'm excited to throw into October. October is my favorite month of the year. I am such a Halloween person, so I'm very excited. And I love this really basic look I used today. I threw this matte in the shade Laguna in the crease. I also used this matte in the shade Gold Rush. I used Mission, which is this dark brown, and I put Cruisin' all over my lid. I did use the pressed glitter in the shade El Capitan, but the glitters aren't eye safe, so I'm well aware that I'm taking risk using it. And I just wish ColourPop would either just get rid of them in their palettes or use an eye safe glitter, because that's pretty much the only fault that I have with this. I've tried ColourPop eyeshadows in the past, so I know that this one performs just as well and did perform just as well as my other palettes. It's just a very fall appropriate color scheme. I am throwing in 2 foundations in this month as well. The first one is my Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation in the shade LC1. This is a really pretty foundation. It is slightly too dark for me, but I can once again mix in that LA Girl Pro Matte foundation. And I love this because I can control the coverage because of the doe foot. So I've complained about the doe foot. I really think it is a double-ended sword. I like the fact that I can control the coverage, but I also don't think it's the most sanitary. But I feel like this foundation is relatively new to my collection, and I wouldn't be surprised if I finished it up in the October update. The second foundation that I have is the Laura Mercier Flawless Lumiere Radiance Perfecting Foundation. I went into Sephora trying to find the new Fenty foundation, and I was talking with an associate, and I was like, hey, like I really want to try it. I know they kind of have an issue with shade matching. She was like the nicest person I've ever met, and I sat there for no kidding, like 20 minutes, and the Fenty one just wouldn't work with me. So I was like, well, I still want like a hydrating radiant foundation, and she suggested this one. I've tried it probably 5 or 6 times, and I like it, but I still don't feel like I've tried it enough to give it a positive or negative review, so I definitely want to throw this in, and I love hydrating foundations for the fall time. The powder that I'm using is the Maybelline Fit Me Translucent Setting Powder in the shade 05 Claire, also fair. This is in my project pan, and as you can tell, I am nowhere near panning this thing. So I want to throw this in, and maybe because I'm using more hydrating foundations, this powder, which I find a bit more drying, will be a good complement so that my face will stay all day. I'm using 2 primers this month. The first is the Becca Backlight Priming Filter. The Becca First Light Priming Filter. I really like this, gives a subtle glow to your face. The purple is supposed to help color correct. I love this primer during the colder months because I think it just does a good job keeping my face like supple and nourished because I do have dry skin. And the other primer that I'm using is the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. I've used this a few times, as you can tell, and I bought this when it was all the rage for the dupe of the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. But I still don't feel like I've used this enough where I can tell if it really makes a difference. So I want to throw this in on top of those foundations that I have because I feel like this would help complement them if it does do a good job with my pore and that area. I'm throwing in 3 different concealers, and that seems excessive, but I honestly think that I can finish off the Catrice Liquid Camouflage this month. So the other 2 are 2 Maybelline concealers. The first one is the Instant Age Rewind in the shade Fair, and the Fit Me, which is also in the shade Ivory. I love the Fit Me concealer for the winter because I feel like it's more of a hydrating concealer, and I do suffer with dryness under my under eyes. And this one's a go-to, and I actually like to use it as foundation. So if I'm not feeling the Physicians Formula or the Laura Mercier, I can just pop this all over and blend it out. I brought 2 different bronzers into my Shop My Stash for this month. The first is the e.l.f. Primer Infused Bronzer in the shade Forever Sunkissed. It's the bronzer that I have on today. It's just a really pretty bronzer with a neutral undertone, so I know as I lose any color that I attempted to get this summer, this will work perfectly for me. It's such a nice formula that if you didn't know this was drugstore and on like the lower end of the price spectrum, you would think this is high end because this is such good quality. It's a really blendable and buildable formula, which I like because I tend to go in with face products kind of heavy, and then I end up distressed and late for work. But that's the color. It's super neutral and it is buildable. So if I want to look really sculpted and bronzed, I can do that, but I don't have to worry about having a panic attack in the morning. Love this color, and I definitely see this being a staple in the winter. A bronzer that I've had in my collection for a few years that I really don't use is the Tarte Park Avenue Princess Bronzer, and I just have this little mini guy. This one has some shimmer in it, so I feel like it would complement the e.l.f. one, which is a little bit more matte, but this one is a little bit deep on me, so maybe I can get away by mixing them. There's the Tarte one next to the e.l.f. one. You can see it's a little bit more of a richer, more warm undertone. But I do like this bronzer. It actually claims to be waterproof, and I bought it because my friends and I went on a cruise to the Bahamas, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna wear a full face of makeup when we snorkel. And then I kind of neglected this. So I'd like to get use out of this. I would like to eventually even hit pan on this bronzer. Besides the California Love palette, I am gonna be using the Norvina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I like this palette. I just don't get as much use out of it as I thought I would, considering how many dips I have in the pan. It's something I have to remember to pull out, and it's not something I'm instinctively gravitating towards. But I feel like this palette is like so pretty for fall because you have this rose gold shade, this purple, and these 2 bronzes and golds, which, as basic as it seems, are my most used colors. But I think that this color scheme is just really pretty. I can incorporate some of these colors with the California Love and have some of the California Love mattes in with this one as well. I'm also throwing in 2 different eye products. So I have the ColourPop X Caffeine Lights Pigment in the shade The Scales, And I also have the Stila Shimmer and Glow Liquid Eyeshadow in the shade Kitten. So I'm going to throw these two in to complement those palettes. Kitten is such a pretty like rose gold color, and I'm so happy because I've lusted after this color forever. And it's so easy to just pop on the lid and run out the door. And I think it would complement both the mattes and those palettes. And the scales, I included this in a monthly favorite. This color is everything. It is a little bit of a messy package, so if you're willing to put up with the struggle of loose pigments, I think it's worth it just for this color. And the way I like to use this is by spraying my brush with setting spray and then going right into the pigment. But it's this really pretty blue or pink with a blue shift. And it's just so pretty, and there's the color right there. You can see that shift. Every time I wear this, someone asks me what I'm wearing on my eyelids. And I think this will go really well with the Norvina palette, especially because it does have that pinky color to it. The blush that I'm using this month is the Becca blush in the shade Tiger Lily. It's one of their luminous flush blushes, and I love a good glowy blush. And I feel like this shade is a little bit more deeper and rich for fall. This one definitely can go overboard with because it is quite pigmented, so I'll have to be cautious, but look how pretty that color is. And tell me that doesn't match my bronzy California love vibes that I'm gonna have going on in October. The highlight that I'm gonna be using is also from Becca, and it's the shade Champagne Pop. Unfortunately, mine shattered a while ago, but I still wanna get good use out of it. I'm even debating repressing it so that I don't have to deal with pressing it back in every time. But Champagne Pop is just a really pretty golden color, and it just looks really flattering. And I feel like this just goes well with like those gold and those like orange warm vibes that apparently I'm going for this month. I have two different eyeliners, which I also got in my Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale. The first one is the Urban Decay eyeliner in the shade Whiskey, which is a really pretty warm brown eyeliner. And the second one is the Dose of Colors eyeliner in the shade Loyal, which is another brown eyeliner, but it's a lot deeper than Whiskey. So Whiskey's right there and Loyal's right there, and you're definitely seeing the difference in depth, but I love brown eyeliner. It's a little bit less harsh than black, but you're still getting that definition. And sometimes I'll just tight line up in my top lash line and walk out the door, or I can put either of these in the waterline for a little bit of added something down there. Like I mentioned last month, my mascara and brow products don't change from month to month. So we're going to skip over those and go right into lips. And I have a lot of lip products. I don't know what happened when I was picking out this month, but I was like, I want this lipstick and this lipstick. I felt like the Oprah of liquid lipsticks. So I'm gonna start with some of my newer ones. I have the Ultra Blotted Lip in the shade Doozy, which is actually what I have on my lips today. It's from ColourPop, and it's a formula I've always been intrigued to test out. So I'd love to try this because I feel like it's still appropriate for October, but it's a little bright and bold for the winter. I have two of the Dose of Colors liquid lipsticks. The first one is in the shade Bear With Me, and the second one is in the shade Stone. I've actually worn Stone one time out, and it was just a pretty purpley mauve lipstick, and it's perfect for this type of year, and I love the Dose of Colors formula. I also have the ColourPop Cream Luxe lipstick in the shade Uno Mas. It's a formula that I want to test out, so I'm going to throw that in. I also picked up the ColourPop Ultra Satin Lip in the shade 0.0 because I feel like this brownie grungy nude is great for the fall time. I know I went a little bit ham on the ColourPop lipsticks, but I also went ham on them during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty, and I haven't tried the Ultra Blotted Lip before or the Cream Luxe Lip. But I love this color, and it's such a bold statement, but yet wearable. I feel like this with just a winged eyeliner is a look. I also have the ColourPop So Juicy Lip Gloss in the shade Princess Cut. It's just their clear one. This is a very ColourPop heavy lip product month, but this can just pair on top of any of the lip products that I chose. I have the Colored Rain liquid lipstick in the shade Mars, which I was actually wearing in that 21 Days of Beauty haul. I love the Colored Rain liquid lipstick formula, and I feel like it's vastly underrated. It's not as drying as some of the other liquid lipsticks that I've tried, and this has the longevity like no other. My friends and I went to a concert last week. We actually saw Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin, and he was phenomenal. But I wore this, and we ended up getting dinner at the venue, so we got nachos and shared a crepe, and this lasted through nachos and like the whipped cream and all that crepey goodness, and it still looked just as good when I went to my car. So I love this formula. I have a few other shades, but Mars is the perfect color for fall. I can do a quick swatch of it over here. So that's a swatch of the shade Mars by Colored Rain, and it's the deepest lip color that I do have pulled into my stash this month. The last lipstick that I have is the shade Todd Cranes by Kylie Cosmetics. It's one of her velvet formulas, and it's the only nude that I have. I guess Bear With Me by Joseph Colors is a nude. But I love the velvet formula much more than I love the matte formula. Todd Cranes is a really pretty peachy nude. It has that delicious Kylie Cosmetics smell. And I love the velvet because it doesn't dry out your lips because, as we know, her ultra mattes are pretty matte and drying. And the last product that I have is another lip product, and it's the Maybelline Vivid Hot Lacquer in the shade Charmer. I bought the shade Tease back when Nikki Tutorials only used the shade Tease on her channel, but I find the color is so unflattering on me. It's like a very milky pink, and it lightens up any lip color you wear, but sometimes it can make me look like I have concealer lips. I've worn this shade a few times, and because it's a lacquer, it does have really good staying power. So that's the shade Charmer right there. It's not as glossy as a traditional gloss, but it definitely provides that shine, and it has amazing longevity because I wore this to work, and I was getting in my car, and I was like, what did I put on my lips this morning? Like, why is it still here? And it was this guy. So those are all the products that I'm gonna have in my Shop My Stash for the month of October. I feel like I went a little excessive this month, but hopefully I'll get some good use out of all of those products. If you like this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. I post a new video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, and I'd love to have you come join me next time. Let me know what you thought of my Shop My Stash for this October, and let me know what products you're throwing in your stash for this month as well. I love starting the series on my channel, and it's really given me the opportunity to discover and rediscover old makeup products in my collection. But that's gonna wrap it up for today. Thanks for watching.